Never in the history of mankind has there been a man so loved and despised at the same time as Nikola Tesla. The genius inventor, who is credited with revolutionary inventions such as the remote control and the alternating current, was also famous for his outlandish ideas and unusual inventions. His journey was marred with failures, disappointments, financial troubles, mental breakdowns, and alienation from the rest of the scientific community. Following his death, Nikola Tesla had become an inspiration for many scientists who refused to be fixed in a box. His crazy ideas continue to resonate within the heart of many like him, who choose to see beyond the stars and are not scared to show the world the products of their imagination. Join us as we take a deep dive into the history of one of history's most remarkable scientists, as we explore Nikola Tesla's truly unique ideas and inventions. Nikola Tesla. History has seen the rise and fall of many men who defy the odds, conquer their world, and imprint their names in the sands of time. Never in the history of mankind has there been a scientist with such an imaginative mind as Nikola Tesla. But as expected, people never really appreciate genius until it's gone. Nikola Tesla, a name that has become synonymous with brilliant inventions and outrightly crazy ideas, rose from a humble background and ascended to unimaginable heights. His father, Milutin Tesla, was an Orthodox priest, and his mother, Duka Tesla, was unschooled. But regardless of the absence of formal education, Nikola Tesla was pretty good at building mechanical systems and exploring some practical fields of science. So, you wouldn't be wrong if you attributed Tesla's brilliance to his mom's genes, as he himself often credited his mom for his outstanding achievements when he was still alive. What's more, even he himself had no serious formal education. While we in the modern world study the works of scientists like Einstein and Edison, Tesla delved into the world of engineering and physics back in the 1870s, studying extensively without gaining a degree. His practical experience working in telephony and at the Continental Edison in the new electric power industry played a pivotal role in many of the inventions he was able to build later in his life. But there's something else that makes this man famous, something that makes him very different from the rest of the brilliant scientists who were alive in his day. You see, Nikola Tesla was not just a scientist, he was a visionary. You could call him a scientific prophet of some sort. He saw the vision for many of the techs that are widely available today, and even though he wasn't really able to produce some of them for commercial users, his blueprints serve as the basis for many inventions that make our daily activities easier and faster. Although his works weren't always accepted, this didn't bother him one bit, as he remained propelled by the power of his imagination and will. During his lifetime, Tesla pushed the boundaries of science and technology, venturing into uncharted territories many scientists of the day were too scared to dip their feet in. To understand the history of this great man, let us take a look at some of his wildest and unique ideas and inventions as we take a trip into the minds of one of the greatest humans to have ever existed. The Wardenclyffe Tower. It takes one man with a crazy idea to change the world, and back in the 19th century, Nikola Tesla was the man of the moment. Although he wasn't really regarded as much of a celebrity, he was more like a mad scientist with crazy ideas that didn't really fit into the mainstream idea of science and technology at the time. One of his craziest ideas was the Wardenclyffe Tower. But it wasn't the tower itself that got everybody's attention, but what he planned to achieve with it. You see, in the early 1890s, Tesla began experimenting with the development of a new wireless power transmission system. The basis of his idea was to turn the Earth itself into a massive brain. This was very much different from the newer theories of airborne electromagnetic waves. Instead, Tesla hoped to turn the Earth itself into a technological gadget. In 1899, Tesla conducted several large-scale experiments and laboratory work at Colorado Springs. There, he developed this brand new idea that he believed was going to shake the scientific community to its core. Here's what he had in mind. Tesla believed that if he injected electric currents into the Earth at just the right frequency, he could harness the electrical charge, which he believed the planet had in abundance. The frequency would then be amplified in standing waves that could then be tapped into from anywhere in the world to run devices or carry specific signals. But there was a problem. Ideas are cheap, but achieving them was pretty expensive. To gather the necessary funding for his invention, Tesla approached many of the high and mighty members of the society. He would wine and dine with them at the Waldorf Astoria's Palm Garden, where he was living at the time. His search for investors also took him to the Players Club and Delmonico's. Every social gathering was an opportunity to spread the word and try to find investors for this new wireless transmission system. Looking within his inner circle, Tesla approached his old friend George Westinghouse for financial support. Although Westinghouse didn't really want to buy into the project, he did lend Tesla $6,000 to get him started. In November 1900, Tesla gained the attention of business mogul J.P. Morgan. Morgan has gotten wind of Guglielmo Marconi's recent achievement of sending reports from the America's Cup yacht races off Long Island back to New York City, using a radio-based wireless system in the previous year. To Morgan, Marconi's system seemed more realistic and practical, and he was pretty skeptical about the feasibility of Tesla's proposed system. After many back and forths, Morgan decided to give Tesla $150,000 to develop and build the wireless station. The contract also gave Morgan a 51% interest in the company, as well as a 51% share in any present and future wireless patents developed from the project. As soon as the J.P. Morgan funding was received, Tesla got to work immediately. But then, a new development in Marconi's system caused Tesla to alter his initial plans. You see, at the time, Marconi's wireless system was making waves, transmitting radio signals beyond the range physicists thought was possible. But at the time, Marconi's system was described as using a Tesla coil connected to the Earth. This led Tesla to believe that Marconi was copying his idea. Because of this, he decided to expand his plans to an even more grandiose version. Although he tried to acquire more funding from Morgan in 1901, the businessman wouldn't budge and refused to drop another penny for the project. In spite of this disappointment, Tesla forged ahead. In September 1901, construction began at the Wardenclyffe Tower, even though Morgan hadn't fully delivered on his $150,000 pledge. By the end of the year, the Wardenclyffe Tower had reached the full height of 187 feet, and Tesla began moving all his lab equipment from his lab at 46 East Houston Street to the building. Try as he may, Tesla couldn't get any investors to put their money into what they described as a project that J.P. Morgan had abandoned. Instead, they decided to pump more and more money into Marconi's system. Finally, in 1906, a series of events began to unfold that ultimately led to the abandonment of the ambitious project. This included the murder of Tesla's architect Stanford White and the death of his longtime investor William Rankine, who died of a heart attack. Then there was also the case of Tesla's mental breakdown. The entire situation culminated in Tesla foregoing his dreams to build the wireless system, as he couldn't keep up with the financial demands. The structure was eventually demolished in 1917 to settle Tesla's mortgage debt. One can only imagine the endless possibilities that would have been achieved if Tesla had received the support he needed. The Teleforce. One major ideology that governed many of Tesla's inventions was the pursuit of world peace. While that may seem like an item on a 5-year-old's Santa wish list, this was a real dream that was pursued by the brilliant inventor. Towards the end of his life, Tesla began working on a project he called the Teleforce. This was aimed at the development of a mega-weapon capable of decimating enemy forces at an unprecedented rate. According to Tesla, this was the weapon that would end all wars. Imagine being able to take down a fleet of about 10,000 enemy aircrafts from 250 miles away. Any nation capable of developing such a weapon would be immune to the most vague idea of an invasion. This was Tesla's goal: to create a weapon that would make nations impenetrable, as it would be capable of wiping out invading enemy forces before they even got close to the territory. So, why did Tesla decide to invent a weapon of all the things he could explore? Well, if you were alive during the First World War, then you would understand why such a weapon of mass destruction was necessary. This was one of the most bloody conflicts in the world at the time. By the 1920s and the 1930s, memories from the bloody days of the war had pushed many to contemplate feasible solutions to reduce human casualties in war. The First World War saw about 8.5 million soldiers dead. So you will understand why building machines that would go to war for us was high on the priority lists of many inventors of the day. In July 1934, Nikola Tesla informed the New York Times that his ultra-powerful Teleforce was capable of shooting down thousands of enemy troops at once. traveling hundreds of miles in the air to destroy invading bomber aircraft and shielding any nation from would-be invaders. Because of these claims, the press began to identify the invention as a death ray. But this was a misrepresentation, and Tesla didn't like that. His was a defensive idea, not to develop an offensive weapon. So how was the teleforce supposed to work? According to the blueprint and details given by Nikola Tesla himself, the peace beam was capable of shooting beams of metal ions at up to 270,000 miles per hour. To achieve this, the proposed teleforce would work by pumping high-velocity air into a vacuum chamber by using another of Tesla's inventions, the Tesla turbine. By keeping one end of the chamber open to the atmosphere, the teleforce would be able to harness the energy necessary to decimate the enemy forces. Unfortunately, many people didn't really believe in the practicality of this idea, and getting funding to develop the teleforce was a huge challenge. After introducing the idea to several world leaders, Tesla eventually gained the attention of the Soviet government. The Soviets eventually provided him with the sum of $25,000 in 1939. But unfortunately, the project never came to fruition. Even though Tesla's ideas were pretty much ignored by the authorities, they kept a close eye on him. The Tesla death beam has tried to make a comeback through the years, and who knows, we may see such a massive weapon functioning on a grand scale on the occasion of another worldwide conflict. The earthquake machine. As an inventor, Tesla was fascinated with several ways to produce and harness electricity. One of the inventions that's credited to the inventor is the electromechanical oscillator, which he patented in 1893. The invention later gained popularity as the earthquake machine after an 1898 incident, but we'll get into that in a while. But first, how did this oscillator work? This fascinating piece of engineering and science worked as a reciprocating electricity generator. Steam would be forced into the oscillator and exit through a series of ports. A piston attached to an armature would then be pushed up and down, vibrating at high speed, thus producing electricity. Tesla also claimed that when the oscillator is attached to a structure, it would generate a range of high-frequency oscillations, matching the natural resonance frequency of the structure. To put it simply, the structure attached to the oscillator would begin to vibrate dangerously. Now, to the earthquake story. You see, while Tesla was working on this invention, he decided to play around a bit in a fit of curiosity. Tesla attached his oscillator to the steel glider of his New York City laboratory and switched it on. Suddenly, the building, as well as the surrounding neighborhood, started vibrating, as though an earthquake was rocking the place. Panic hit Tesla, and he switched off the machine. Then everything died down. But not before the incident caught the attention of the police, who showed up at the site to investigate the quake. For a long time, everyone believed that the quake had been a natural occurrence, until Tesla himself revealed that the shock waves were created by one of his inventions. The most amazing part of this tale is that the invention that caused this huge impact was no bigger than an alarm clock. Remote-controlled ship. During the electrical exposition in Madison Square Gardens in 1898, Nikola Tesla unveiled his latest invention to the world. He called it the teletomaton. This awe-inspiring invention was a remote-controlled boat. The boat was roughly 4 feet long, had blinking antennae, and was propelled by a small motor and rudder. Imagine the look of shock on the faces of the audience as Tesla demonstrated the invention. This was a machine that seemed to move on its own with no human interference. Some even claimed the inventor was controlling the ship with his mind. While the idea of robotics has become mainstream in our modern world, this was 1898, and automation was pretty much a concept at this time. To further sell the illusion that the boat was automated, Tesla directed the members of the audience to ask the device mathematical questions, and the device would respond by blinking lights on its antennae an appropriate number of times. Everyone was left in shock and awe, as they had never seen a machine come alive. The audience would shout instructions at the boat, and it would move accordingly, as if it had ears to catch to their every command. Was this magic, or was it simply science? Many people asked. There were even people on the wild side who believed that the boat was being controlled by a monkey, which Tesla had brilliantly hidden in the toy. But in reality, Tesla was simply controlling the toy boat using a radio-transmitting box. The antennae on the boat were designed to allow it to catch the signals from the remote. Remote controls are everywhere now, but back in the day, The idea of controlling a device with another device without any physical linkage between the two was almost considered an act of witchcraft. It was like technological witchcraft. Even though Tesla wasn't controlling the boat with his mind, he had just invented the remote control. Tesla proposed that this could be incorporated into larger boats, which would be pretty helpful, especially with military fleets. Massive ships could be remotely controlled without physical human intervention, sent on missions and retrieved from the vast expanse of the sea. Today we call them drones, but back in the day, people weren't all too familiar with the concept. The press, who appear to never be on Tesla's side, ran with the negative side of this story. Instead of focusing on the beneficial aspect of this device, they presented it to the world as a device capable of wirelessly delivering a torpedo into an enemy's territory. This was contrary to Tesla's dream, which had nothing to do with warfare. In spite of this constant misrepresentation, Tesla invention remains the benchmark for many inventions we see today. Following the invention of the remote-controlled boat, Tesla predicted that in the near future, machines would be able to function with what he described as a borrowed mind. This would transcend them from the realm of wires and batteries to becoming almost human. He believed that the machine of the future would be able to respond to environmental stimuli on its own accord, without any human interference. With the recent strides in robotics and automation, Tesla is probably smiling in his grave, whispering, "I told you so." Flying apparatus. In 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright presented their new invention to the world. Everyone watched in astonishment as the brothers took to the skies in their wonder machine. From then on, it was a race between scientists, as everyone wanted to build their own version. Of course, Nikola Tesla wouldn't sit by. He had to lend his own brainpower to design his version of the airplane, which he called the flying apparatus. In 1928, Tesla patented his own concept. In usual Nikola Tesla fashion, this concept was quite different from the Wright brothers' idea. It was capable of taking off vertically, and has been credited as the forerunner of the United States Air Force's V-22 Osprey. From the design, it was obvious that Tesla built his own version from scratch. It was highly original but quite lacking in practicality. The famed inventor described his new invention as the helicopter plane. Like what you would get if a helicopter and an airplane had a baby. Tesla himself identified the practical problem that plagued his concept. In the patent disclosure, he stated that the utility of his airplane was materially lessened, and that the commercial introduction of such a machine would be greatly hampered, owing to the inherent inability of the mechanism to readily rise and alight as he claimed. This was majorly because the force required to lift the machine could only be produced by a more or less rapid translatory movement of the planes or foils. To put it simply, the plane would require a pretty long runway, but if it indeed worked, how would it fly? According to the patent filing, Nikola Tesla stated that a helicopter plane consisted of a chassis with a cockpit, an engine in the rear end, and a propeller at the top. At the start of the flight, it would rise up into the air like a helicopter, then gradually turn 90 degrees so the propeller can be forward-facing. The cockpit would also rotate along with the plane, allowing the pilot to face forward at all times. Although it was never actually built, Tesla's plane concept proposed an elegant solution to a difficult problem. It featured a single engine, which made for a simpler, lighter design. This turned out to be Tesla's final patent, as he died in 1943. You could say he went out with a bang. Before we go on with the video, here's our subscribers pick for today. Following the death of Nikola Tesla, the American government sought to lay its hands on the precious blueprints and ideas that set the famous scientist apart in his field. The FBI stormed his hotel room and carted away important documents, especially in relation to the death ray. Throughout his life, Tesla was considered a mad scientist, one that should not be taken too seriously. From his outlandish scientific ideas to the claims of extraterrestrial contacts, everything about this man was unusual. Even though the government pretty much ignored him during his life, his works became the pivotal point of many inventions after his death. The US government was particularly scared that the blueprint for the death beam would fall into the hands of the enemies, putting national security at great risk. For many years, authorities have denied possessing any such document or producing weapons of such magnitude. Do you believe the death beam is indeed a real weapon, or is it too much of a fantasy to become reality? Let us know in the comments. Now back to the video. The thought camera. Nikola Tesla shocked the world again in 1933 when he ventured into the world of the impossible. In this new endeavor, his goal was to create an invention capable of capturing human thoughts. No one can really tell the circumstances that inspired this invention, but you'll agree that it's pretty imaginative. The basis for this idea was that Tesla believed a definite image formed in the mind would definitely create a corresponding image on the retina. With a suitable apparatus, this could be transmitted onto a screen and captured, just like with a camera. Imagine the wild possibilities that would have abounded if this invention had been made possible. Obviously, the idea was pretty outlandish, and is more like the product of a fantasy than an actual scientific project. But this shouldn't be surprising, since we're talking about Nikola Tesla. However, with recent developments in artificial intelligence, Tesla may actually be onto something. What if we could actually invent a machine that could read minds? Impossible. Well, check out this new AI system developed by researchers in Singapore known as MindDiviz. This advanced technology analyses brainwave patterns and reproduces the image produced in the subject's mind. The team responsible for this invention analyzed brain data from over 58 volunteers, with considerable success. Although the technology is still in the early stages of development, it could eventually be one of the most fascinating inventions of the next technological revolution. Artificial wave machine. As part of his efforts to pursue world peace, Nikola Tesla conceptualized yet another weapon, which he believed would be the ultimate defense system against enemy forces. He named it the artificial tidal wave. So how did it work? Well, according to Tesla, the artificial wave machine would be used along with his other invention, the teletomatons. With this remote piloting system, tons of high-explosive materials would be transported towards enemy Navy fleets and detonated. By calculating the collapsing gas bubble that would be produced by the explosion, the famous inventor determined that it would be sufficient to produce tidal waves of more than 100 feet. This artificially produced force of nature would be very effective in wiping out an entire enemy fleet in just one strike. Sounds like a fantastic idea, right? But would it work? Well, according to the results of the underwater nuclear bomb testing that was undertaken in the 1940s and the 1950s by the United States and the Soviet Union, probably not. The Niagara Falls hydroelectric plant. Did you know that Nikola Tesla was responsible for the development of the first hydroelectric power plant in Niagara Falls, New York? Since his childhood, Tesla had been fascinated by the power of the waterfall. On November 16, 1896, power flowed to several homes from the power station, all thanks to Tesla's brilliant invention. But he didn't achieve this alone. Along with George Westinghouse, Tesla forged ahead in bringing the dreams of making long-distance electric power transmission a reality. With their combined skills and geniuses, as well as the power of the alternating current, the two brilliant minds started a revolution that eventually electrified the world. Adams Station, Powerhouse Number 3, the only surviving building of the original power plant, can still be found standing at the Niagara Falls Power Station after over 120 years. The shadowgraph. Although the X-ray was invented by Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen in 1895, Nikola Tesla began experimenting with the technology in 1894. The famous inventor was playing around with radiation energy toward the end of the 19th century, when a damaged film from one of his previous experiments caught his attention. Unfortunately, a fire ravaged Tesla's lab in 1895, destroying all of the equipment. Else there is a possibility that he may have been the recognized inventor of the X-ray. Although he didn't quite call it the X-ray, instead Tesla referred to this fascinating form of imaging as a shadowgraph. Following Röntgen's invention, Tesla sent him a letter of congratulations, and included some of the images he had been making with this new invention. In response, Röntgen also sent him some high praises for his work. Tesla's version of the X-ray featured a high-energy vacuum tube, which worked from the output of his most famous invention, the Tesla coil. To test this new invention, he chose the easiest model he could find, which was himself. Two iconic X-ray images remain of this experiment, one of his hands and another image of both of his feet, with the metal pieces of his shoe still visible. Throughout his life, the genius scientist continued to improve on the X-ray technology, and many of his invaluable inputs helped perfect the revolutionary technology. Extraterrestrial signal interception. Perhaps the most famous discovery credited to this brilliant scientist was the interception of extraterrestrial radio signals back in the early 1900s. According to Tesla, his wireless radio transmission system had picked up radio communications from another planet, most probably Mars. He claimed to have observed electrical actions that seemed to defy all scientific explanations. Earthly science, at least. This led to the conclusion that the signals he had picked up were indeed of extraterrestrial origin. Unfortunately, the signals were quite faint and uncertain, but Tesla was pretty sure he had just been contacted from the outside world. Although the press ran with the story, the scientific community had a different reaction. It is believed that he may have actually lost his shot at a Nobel Prize due to this revelation. Regardless of what anybody thought, Tesla believed that it would be very improbable that humans are the only intelligent life forms in the universe, and so he expected that we would receive signals from other intelligent life forms who were also searching for other life forms in the galaxy. If aliens are indeed real, and we someday get visited by extraterrestrial beings, once again Nikola Tesla would turn in his grave and whisper, "I told you so." Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one.
Nikola Tesla, the Henry, left an indelible mark on the world through his groundbreaking contributions to various fields of work. Beyond his scientific achievements, Tesla's methodology and unique approach to invention set him apart from his contemporaries. This video delves into the multifaceted aspects of Tesla's work, emphasizing his affinity for the ancient Pythagorean concept of retrodeduction, his intellectual prowess combined with physical dexterity, and his distinctive approach to science and experimentation. The mythological pose. A striking feature of Tesla's imagery is his consistent pose, reminiscent of ancient Greek mythology, where gods simultaneously pointed towards their heads in creation. This symbolic stance, with his right hand on his temple and left hand gesturing towards creation, reflects Tesla's commitment to blending theoretical knowledge with hands-on experimentation. The presence of Theoria Philosophiae Naturalis beneath his hand underscores his dedication to merging theory and practice in his work. Intellectual prowess and physical dexterity. Tesla's unique position in the realm of science is attributed to his rare combination of intellectual depth and hands-on experimentation. While many scientists focus solely on theoretical aspects or practical applications, Tesla seamlessly integrated both. His gaunt appearance and gnarled hands, testament to years of tireless experimentation, illustrate his commitment to the physical aspects of invention. Tesla's embodiment of both mental acuity and physical engagement distinguishes him as a true scientist. The three types of scientists. Tesla's classification of scientists into three types further elucidates his approach. He identified those who tinker without deep analysis, those with analytical minds but lacking practical skills, and the rare individuals excelling in both realms. Tesla firmly belonged to the latter category, possessing the analytical thinking required for profound analysis and the physical acumen for hands-on experimentation. Edison and Tesla, tinkering versus thinking. Comparing Tesla with his contemporary, Thomas Edison, sheds light on their fundamental differences. While Edison was a prolific tinkerer, Tesla surpassed mere tinkering with his analytical mind, marking him as a true thinker. Tesla acknowledged Edison's prowess but emphasized the distinction in their approaches. This juxtaposition highlights Tesla's dedication to reasoning and retrodeduction, setting him apart in the scientific community. The business acumen and legacy. Despite financial struggles and business setbacks, Tesla's intellectual legacy remains unparalleled. His hands-on, intellectual approach laid the foundation for groundbreaking discoveries, even if financial success eluded him during his life. Tesla's commitment to his unique methodology, characterized by a blend of theoretical depth and practical experimentation, shaped the course of scientific progress. Unveiling the secrets of Nikola Tesla's success. Tesla's success is unveiled through an exploration of his creative process and critical views on contemporary scientific practices. His mental construction and deconstruction of inventions, combined with a preference for retrodeduction over traditional methods, showcase a mind that transcends conventional approaches. Tesla's disdain for substituting mathematics for experiments and his critique of abstract concepts in quantum mechanics emphasize his commitment to rational science. The perfect storm: intellectual prowess and hands-on expertise. In conclusion, Nikola Tesla's success lies in the perfect storm of intellectual depth and hands-on experimentation. His ability to balance theoretical knowledge with practical experience positions him as a true scientist of rare distinction. Reflecting on Tesla's methodology encourages a re-evaluation of the dichotomy between theoretical and practical aspects in scientific endeavors. It advocates for a holistic approach, urging the cultivation of both intellectual and practical skills for success, challenging the notion that mathematical equations alone constitute true science. Tesla's legacy serves as a guiding beacon for aspiring scientists, reminding them of the enduring value of a comprehensive and innovative approach to scientific exploration.